And I guess my point when I was talking to Senator from Orangeburg was, I've tried to come up with a bill that reflects what South Carolinians want. And what I'm convinced that they want after looking at these polls is they want to empower doctors because it can be a therapeutic benefit, but they do not want this to be a slippery slope or a sham law where everybody can walk in and get cannabis. That's not what this bill is. This bill is extraordinarily restrictive and tight and cautious and conservative for that reason. Now, I talked a little bit about the things that were in the recent GOP email that got sent out under sheriff's names. And the very first thing they talk about is illegal. Well, yeah, it is illegal right now in South Carolina. We're talking about making it legal. And there's nothing that prevents us from doing so, like 36 other states have done or that Mississippi is about to do. The second thing they say is marijuana is not medicine. Medicine is based on legitimate research and science, not politics and not feelings. I mean, I'm going through, and I'll continue to go through, the scientific abstracts and the studies that show that it is therapeutic. Perhaps most notably, in 2017, the National Academy of Sciences, they looked at 10,000 scientific abstracts, medical abstracts, and found that there is conclusive proof, the highest degree of proof, not substantial, not somewhat, conclusive proof that cannabis can be efficacious as medicine. Okay? That's not, what did they call it again? That's not politics and not feelings. That's based on legitimate research and science. I mean, what they're throwing out there to you is based on emotion and politics. Impaired driving will only be further exacerbated if medical marijuana is legalized. Okay, I mentioned that earlier. I want to give you some specifics on that. A study that was published on March 20, 2014 in the American College of Medical Toxicology. Get to the findings. All right, this interestingly, drivers who use marijuana recreationally drive slower, have increased following distances, and overestimate their degree of intoxication. Conversely, alcohol-intoxicated vehicle operators drive faster, have shorter following distance, and underestimate their degree of intoxication. Okay? Well, that was a provocative statement. I mean, and since, they are largely, in many instances, substitute products, alcohol and cannabis, that gives rise to the reason why you see a drop in these fatalities. And so I looked at the footnote there, and they footnoted a study that was done by the Department of Transportation, U.S. Department of Transportation, called Marijuana and Actual Driving Performance. And this is back in 1993 that the DOT did this. And this is fascinating to me. Caswell, that's an economist, in 1979, was the first who included a subsidiary task to simulate demands for monitoring the environment. 13 males were tested in 3 treatment sessions, receiving alcohol and marijuana treatments twice in each session, and drove for 35 minutes after each treatment. Treatments included alcohol plus placebo marijuana, placebo alcohol plus marijuana, double placebo, and placebo alcohol and marijuana. Alcohol and marijuana combined, and alcohol and marijuana with a higher dosage. Subjects' tasks included overtaking, driving in straight sections through a hairpin bend and through narrow gaps while responding to road signals, traffic signals, and auditory signals in the subsidiary task. The finding was drivers under the influence of marijuana compensated for what they felt were the adverse effects of the drug by maintaining control, effort, and decreasing speed to reduce the required rate of information processing. Alcohol, in contrast, produced more risky behavior. That's why you're seeing these studies that traffic fatalities and incidences of impaired driving in the aggregate have fallen, not increased, in states that have medical cannabis laws. And I'm not arguing, Senator Johnson, that you can't be under the influence of marijuana and be in an accident, but I'm talking about in the aggregate, when you're comparing states that have medical cannabis laws, they don't, as the Republican Party said in that email, they don't increase, they decrease. I mean, it's just a direct falsehood that they're putting out there. And well, it doesn't pain me to say it. I think it's, I think it's wrong. More studies in that regard, not just one, another one. Marijuana decriminalization, medical marijuana laws, and fatal car crashes in U.S. cities between 2010 and 2017. A study that was published in the AGPH. I'm not figuring out what that acronym stands for right now. I think it's American Journal of something. 13%, we found that medical marijuana laws were associated with fewer crashes, fatal crashes for both males and females. And then it references that DOT study as well that showed the same thing. Another study that shows the same correlation between medical cannabis laws and a decrease in those impaired driving fatalities is using that same one that was in the AGPH study that was in February 2017. Using population-based data from 1985 to 2014, we found that, first, states that enacted medical marijuana laws during that study period had lower fatality rates compared with states without medical marijuana laws. Second, on average, traffic fatalities further decreased in states post-MML, medical marijuana laws, with both immediate declines over time, and that we found on average that MML states, medical marijuana law states, had lower traffic fatality rates than non-MML states. And that it's possible that this is related to lower levels of alcohol-impaired driving behavior in MML states. Again, that whole substitute goods argument. Another study, because that was published on December 3rd, 2009, cannabis as a substitute for alcohol and other drugs. The conclusion as to why you're seeing this decrease in these accident rates in MML states, medical marijuana law states, is because patients have been engaging in substitution by using cannabis as an alternative to alcohol, prescription, and illicit drugs. Again, I'm not arguing in favor of becoming under the influence of marijuana and going out and driving. What I'm saying is to state that there's going to be an increase in fatalities or impaired driving if we pass this law is not borne out by the evidence in states that have passed those laws. And in fact, they've gone down. They've gone down in those states.